think he's on another call.
Oh, okay, good.
There's, I think as you know, most times of the day you can keep very safe here because it's just not that crowded. You
Yeah.
can you can easily space yourselves out. Um, at happy hour in the evening and at breakfast in the morning, it's tight. But in most cases, you're never dangerously pushing capacity. So
Yeah.
people ought to feel fairly okay.
Yeah, I think so. Again, since you've reopened, I've only been to Powell Crosley to swim. Um, but that's been absolutely fine.
Well, we're gonna start tearing down the bubble this weekend now, a week ahead.
Oh, they moved you ahead. Good for you.
Well, we were on that date, and then the email I sent to you, they had pushed us out, and
Okay.
now they're back. So
Great.
they're a tough group to work with, I swear.
Well, it's the difficulty is like with CRC, we had all of a sudden employee test positive.
Yeah.
So the whole facility had to be shut down and some
For how
contact
long?
tracing.
How many hours did you choose?
They closed for the rest of the day.
Yeah.
Had a team come in and do whatever CDC approved cleaning is.
Yeah.
And the one center that just happened like yesterday, so I don't know how long the whole facility is going to be closed.
We had a family member test positive out Gamble Nipper Child Care.
Yeah.
And we chose to shut everything down for a week for 5 days. I think guidance throughout the state is much closer to 48 to 72 hours. But I think it sends the right message if we err on the side of a couple of extra days, actually.
Yeah, I agree, especially with the current trajectory of cases. I think you're right to be a little bit more cautious. What was Craig trying to reconnect?
He was going to, because he hasn't been able to share the screen, he was considering like reopening another meeting.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, what occurred is for some reason when I went to live stream, it only showed myself. It didn't show.
That's good.
Yeah.
We don't need to see us.
Well, it didn't show the actual meeting progressing, so I went ahead and relinked it, and I reached out to Rocky and Kelly, and they need to go out there. And so within our website, all we have is if you want to watch live, click here, and they click on it. Well, they need to update whatever that's mapped to, so when somebody clicks on it, they can go and watch our meeting. So right now, that's who I'm waiting for confirmation.
Well, that's important because we usually have at least 40, 50 people at these meetings.
Yeah, absolutely. Then Kevin Frank from Law's on. He just wants to just be there for advice, guidance, and so.
Random questions.
Hi, how are you?
I am well, thank you. I had a plumber at my 80-year-old mother's home, and of course, he called at 3:02 when the call. So I just wanted to make sure that she wasn't floating away. All is well. That is right when he called. So I was actually going to start the call saying, "Hey, if I get a call from this one thing, I'm going to have to take it." But that's how it works. So.
Well, see, now you won't have to be interrupted from your extreme train of thought of the complex issues that we will be discussing.
You're here.
Outstanding, yes. We're going to solve all concerns and questions about
Rocky,
the securities and investment market will be solved by the conclusion of this meeting.
Good. I was wondering if you could.
Oh, from your lips, I wish.
I sent you the new link. I broke the link. and I'm gonna need a new link put. You know where you guys
And
had.
due to the
you
public
wanna
nature,
walk,
this has
click
to
here.
be sort of Robert's rulesy and get
Could you update that
adjourned
link
and all
to
of
the new
that
link I
stuff, correct?
sent you?
Or not adjourned.
We will do it since, yeah, we'll be official
Yeah, I'm in
today.
the meeting right now.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, what happened was I went in there and for some reason it wouldn't show me myself, and then I needed to go ahead and show like
It'll take maybe 2-3 minutes.
Okay.
I thought you were calling me about the.
Oh, and we're waiting for Kevin
No,
Flynn
no.
too.
It's they've lost control.
I saw KF and I thought it
They
was that
have.
Kevin.
They're still the public speakers.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. The KF is Kevin Frank.
Yes.
Wow.
I'm actually going to text Kevin right now just to make sure he's headed aboard here.
So the new one is the one that is. All I gotta do is replace what's there.
Yeah, replace it with the new link I just emailed you. Yeah, replace it with the new link I just emailed you.
Hold on
It'll-
1 second. I can tell you when it's done.
Okay, it'll be about 2 more minutes.
Well, the clock is ticking, Craig, on my per diem here.
Almost there.
Okay.
John, are you at home or in the office?
I'm at home. I've really been pretty
Okay.
slow getting back to the office. We were pretty good at being mobile
take a look at
already,
it.
and if the statistics of the last 48 hours are any indication, I don't think I'm going to be in a big hurry to get back anytime soon.
Oh, you're absolutely right.
Our accounting team has been in because we still get a meaningful number of paper checks. So they go in, they rotate individuals. Probably we have coverage 20, 30 hours a week from somebody, but they're well spaced out. I haven't been in my office this week. We actually had a maintenance tech who was in the office on Friday, who it turns out now has a positive diagnosis. So
Oh,
we had the folks show up in the bunny suits and do the whole fogging and wiping of everything, and it's I wanted this to move in a linear fashion. I was okay with a slow fashion, but I would have liked linear, but it's just
yeah,
Okay.
not. So
yeah.
Yeah, the link
Yeah,
when I
no.
got there to our website
I-
is still not. It's the old link.
I wish I could say that I was surprised that this happened, but
Your browser.
I'm not
Yeah,
surprised
just
that we've seen this with quickly opening some things and people flocking back to bars and restaurants.
Yep. And people thought it was a problem when I drank alone. I was just reminding.
You were just being responsible.
Exactly.
It's that new Quarantini drink that they've come up with.
Exactly. 6 shots of Everclear and a short calendar.
Is it still not working for you?
Let's take a
You
see.
have
We'll hope that makes it into the official minutes.
about the importance of washing your
Well, I
hands.
haven't gavelled
and
anything
my-
here yet, so you can say what you want to
If
say.
you are really concerned about the health of
Mr.
your
Meyer is an alcoholic.
No, it's still going to the old link.
And whenever we're set to go technically here, we'll go ahead. I've texted Kevin Flynn and have not received the message, so I'm not sure. If he's lucky, he's out on his boat and forgot about this, or his Wi-Fi connection didn't kick in.
Chat now, Craig.
Okay.
So Kevin Frank, are you the new interim city solicitor?
For this meeting, yeah. That's-
Okay.
Okay, I just checked it. It's on the.
Oh, it's
Yeah, I think
on.
as soon as Craig
Yep.
gets this up, we should be ready to
It's on.
go.
Thank you, Rocky.
Okay.
All right, sorry about that.
Oh, no problem. Thank you. No, sorry about that and helping me out, man. Thanks.
Oh, no problem. No problem.
Bye.
Take care. Yep, bye.
Oh, okay. We are ready to go. We are live with YouTube. The link's been updated, Kevin, and they can see us on YouTube now.
Okay. And so Kevin and Craig, we won't see you. Is that right? You're just audio?
I am all audio because I can only stream, the camera can only stream one thing at a time. So on YouTube, I'm in like a corner,
Right.
but you guys will not be able to see me because the camera can only be at one location.
Okay.
I
Well,
can get
it's
a video if you'd like. Craig, I was going to ask you though, can the YouTube feed be recorded or?
Yes.
Okay, I'm figuring if some people are having connection problems and they didn't get logged in, at least they can look at it afterwards.
Yep.
okay. So are we set, Craig?
We are set and ready to go. Welcome.
Do we have a quorum?
Okay. Great. So we will open this meeting 3:14 on 6/24, and in case somebody's just listening, we've got John Nyer. John, acknowledge yourself.
Good afternoon, everybody.
And Steve Pullman.
Can you hear me now?
We can hear you now. Thank you. And I am Jim Getz. I'll chair the meeting. Craig Sherman, you're here.
Yes.
Great. And Kevin Frank from the City Solicitor's Office is joining us on this meeting. So we'll come to order, and our first order of business is to look at the minutes of our March 10th, 2020. If you all remember, well before the coronavirus hit us too hard. Have you all had a chance to look at the minutes, and do you have any changes or corrections? If not, can I hear a motion for approval?
Move
Mr.
approval.
Meyer nodded.
Yep.
Is there a
move-
second?
I'll second.
Okay, Mr. Pullman, those in favor say aye. More
Aye.
importantly, opposed? Okay, so we've approved the minutes. Craig, before we move on, related to the minutes, could you bring us up to speed? And if you haven't been able to do it, we know that a few things have happened between now and this last meeting. Did you get any updates on the Schmidlap Fund that's held at the city?
No, I have not received any updates on the Schmidlap Fund. Right now, I'm pending. Yeah, I need
That's
to work
fine.
with RLS on that. They're busy working on some other things for us right now.
Yep, that's absolutely fine. I just wanted to cover that. And also, I will stay, just for information, in our minutes, we had said there would be a follow-up with PNC in person. And with the closures taking place since our last meeting, we have not followed up with PNC with a in face-to-face meeting with the CEO over there, but we will do that sometime before our next meeting. We'll sit and meet with PNC to discuss performance. And you'll also note that in our minutes, we said that Fifth Third would be joining us at our next meeting of this committee. And because of not having a lot of documents available and because of a lot of activity, we are going to push Fifth Third. And Craig, I believe we were going to do that at our next meeting. Is that correct?
That is correct. Once we identify our next meeting, we'll go ahead and I'll work with Helen and the team and schedule them to come in.
Perfect. Thanks, Craig. Well, if we would, let's then move on to a review. And our agenda item is to come up with a recommendation for the amount of money to be distributed out of our endowment funds for the next fiscal year. Before we do that, why don't we take a look at the documents that Craig had provided to us? You'll notice that Craig provided to us, and if you could find, Craig, your Cincinnati Park Board Endowment Fund for the first quarter, the March 2020 quarterly.
Here, I need to pull up that file. 1 second.
Sure. And I'll just note as Craig's pulling that up, we'll just acknowledge looking at it, but this really was at the end of March, and as we'll see in the next document, March was pretty much a low point for the financial markets. So what we would be looking at here for returns from the first quarter, just in my opinion, are not meaningful at this point because we have seen, at that point, we had the huge drop off in the market. And since then, by our May balances, we had a lot of pickup since that time. So as I looked through that report, and Steve and John, if you know which one I'm looking at, it's the one that has the 3-month return, calendar year to date, 1 year, 3 year, 5 year performance at that report.
Yep.
Again, at the end of March, it reflected our total endowment funds at about a 16% decrease for the year to date. But again, I think markets have, not it yet, Craig, but.
So right
again,
now I went ahead and I am sharing the Cincinnati Park Board Endowment Fund Summary, the December through May.
Okay. So let's leave it on there, Craig. Unless Steve or Craig or John feel differently, I think the end of the first quarter, March 31 numbers are somewhat meaningless at this point in time.
I agree, and I've got it in front of me, and it looks like everybody was punished equally.
Yes.
You know, there were no wide variations in how anybody looks for the 1 year or current year to date numbers. So, and that 19,026 shows up here on what we're looking at now on the screen. So,
okay.
I think we can go with this.
Well, we'll just note in the minutes that we reviewed the end of first quarter returns for each of our funds, and due to the volatility in markets, noted that they were substantially different as we look at our May numbers. So Craig, why don't you leave up the one that you had there that has a May 30 balances? Exactly, that's good.
Great.
And as Steve mentions, you'll see the March 20 that we were just looking at, the total invested total of $19 million, you see was the bottom at that point for us, and let's hope that is the bottom for the year. And we have through May bounced back to $21 million. So we are still about $1.3 million off from where we were at the end of the year, but as we see, substantially recovered from even 2 months ago.
Yeah.
As I look at that too, as you know, Craig will be putting together the returns numbers, the percentage, the performance on a quarterly basis. So at our next meeting, when we schedule that, we'll take a look at where we were through June 30, which I hope will be more meaningful to us. And I think the market, if I'm not mistaken, may have been pretty good. And Steve, you're probably more on top of that. I think through June, I think we're still up a little bit for the year.
Yep. Although it's we're all taking a bath today.
Yeah, I didn't want to. That's why things are volatile. We'll continue to say that. But if things are keeping as they've been, probably 2 days from now we'll bounce back. But let's hope that's the case. Is there anything of note, Craig, that you would want to highlight on this return as of May 20?
With the May 20 return, it was nice seeing that we were coming back from the low point. I do want to caution, I know today is a nasty day on the market, so, and being this close to the end of the month, hopefully it's able to rebound towards the end of the month.
Okay. And also looking through there, there is a difference fund to fund of performance, but not a significant, there's no real outliers, I believe, as a significant difference, either from an earnings or a loss, or I should say degree of loss for any of the funds. So perhaps with that in mind, Craig, let's go to the main issue that we have to talk about here and looking at what we would want to recommend to the board as far as distributions for this coming fiscal year. And I don't know if you want to walk us through it. Perhaps you could remind us, what was the percentage that we distributed for fiscal year 20?
Last year we distributed 3%. And
Okay.
And the screen I have up currently is looking at it. We distribute based on the average value of 20 quarters. So you can see on the screen now, these are each of our funds and a running 20 quarter average, but at 1%, 2%, 3%, 4%, and 5%. I do want to point out for the Sudi Acres, that's not a fund we determine the distribution. That's Fifth Third Bank will determine the distribution amount, and it's a stagnant, I believe, 3%.
Okay. Craig, so just for clarity then, when we're looking at trailing 20 quarters, would this be as of the March 31 quarter end?
Yes.
Okay. So as you look at this, I would say, as we're looking at it, these percentages that Craig shows us probably would, and Craig, when we actually do the distribution, would we do it on the basis of the end of year, so end of fiscal year? So would it be based on the June 30 trailing 20 quarters?
Yeah, if we would wait for June 30th, that would be an addition to it, yes.
Okay. Okay, so I guess as we're looking at this then, I think we can assume that whichever percentage we come up with here, we will probably get a little bit, we would get a little bit more, since we know that March 31st would have been at our low point, and we've come up since then. But I think looking at this schedule is good enough for what we're going to be talking about here. So Craig, also remind us, as far as real dollars, as you've put together some preliminary 2021 numbers, do you have a sense of how much we would be looking for out of this, or do you have a recommendation for us on percentage that you think will be necessary?
Yeah, I looked at historically, like what we did last year, and right now I'm plugging in and I'm sharing an Excel spreadsheet right now, and for expenditures, I'm plugging in about 3%, and that'll allow to cover the budgeted expenses at this point in time. this is preliminary for the operations. So let me.
Okay.
The only outlier is for the Meyer Fund, and I'll probably go out there and redistribute. I will be redistributing some of the Meyer Fund because there's a duplication in Fund 326 expenditures and the Meyer Fund within the Commissioner Fund, so I had to back that out. So there is a significant amount, 104,000 that I'm going to go ahead and, if you notice on that, the variances there between the projected revenue and the requested budgeted expenses.
Yeah.
Some of the other ones are running pretty flat on revenue and expenses, so I'm going to redistribute that 104,000 so it relieves the Geyer Fund, Miles Edward, and Grabner, and the Fleshman that's unrestricted, so they're not being hit as hard, so it allows them to increase their balance a little bit.
Okay. A couple of things that I would note for Steve and John as well, and Craig, you're intimately aware of this, but in the schedule that Craig has up there now where he's showing a projected June 30 balance, 2021. Oh, that's 2021. Okay, so this is projecting, gotcha. Each one of these funds that is supported by the endowments, there will be a healthy ending balance in each. So that what that says to me is I don't think we need to increase our distribution at all. And in fact, if we even lowered it by a little bit, there will be enough in the fund balance at the end of this year, June 30 of 20, that would be able to absorb. We would just, you know what I'm saying, we would just reduce some of that fund balance by the time you get to June of next year. That whole discussion sort of leads to us thinking, okay, for the balance of the year, do we leave money in the market thinking that it will be going up, or do we say we might as well take what we can now in case we foresee another dip in the market for whatever reason over the course of the next fiscal year? So that's where, John, your crystal ball comes into play.
I'll reference that. I don't know that this information is readily available, but one, I wonder how much cash is in each of the funds. Yeah, I guess what I don't want to do, and I'm less averse to it now than I would have been a month ago, I don't want to liquidate securities at an inopportune time. And like I said, I think it is less inopportune now than it was 30 and certainly 60 days ago. But if the needs of the park system can be met by even with a slightly reduced, and I'm thinking in the the 2.5 range, or not radically reduced, but this isn't the period of time when I want to sell a ton of securities. Steve is vastly more experienced in this realm than I am, so I'm happy to get smarter on his dime. But that's my gut walking in is, boy, I don't want to. I don't want to say fire sale because this is done in a deliberate and controlled manner, but it is selling in a erratic and somewhat down market.
Steve, what's your thoughts? You're muted at the moment. There you go.
All right. Yeah, I agree with John and Jim. You know that we've done some of the same approach at the Y and had these same conversations. And if we can get by at less than 3, this is the type of market to try that. A spend policy of 3% is probably not that excessive, but if we're trying to decide which way we lean, it's kind of how you open this discussion, Jim, and that it's probably best to leave in the market an extra point and spend one less point at this time, especially if we were building up some healthy balances in some of these. Craig, what does are you able to scroll down? Does that June June 30 balance, will that closely approximate the, so that will be, what will that be close to? Is that the Fifth Third number?
For the
So if you look at-
5.8 million.
Or a little closer to what we've seen, the 6 million over in the beginning with. So what? Which
So,
numbers?
I mean, Steve, what this is, the $6 million balance.
Yep.
Let me try and explain that. That is the balance of all the monies that we have today transferred out of our endowments
Okay.
and have spent out of, and you can see that we've accumulated $6 million that we have not spent from what we have taken out of endowment funds.
So yeah, and all the more reason to lean towards a minimal distribution that we need to kind of hover at that level, right?
Yeah. And Craig, remind us also the timing. I know you don't take a lump sum, whatever we are going to withdraw, you don't do it all in one withdrawal. What is typically your timing of those withdrawals? Is it a quarter, that sort of thing? Or are you doing half up front? How do you do that?
It's based on it. I do it in halves. So for the historically, the stock market's always been significantly higher in October. So depending on how the market's performing, if the market's performing well, I'll go ahead and take half of the distribution in October. And then the same can be said about April, is tend to when historically the market is doing very well. Unfortunately, this April, obviously, that didn't happen, so the distribution was postponed until the market corrected or got back a little closer, not back to normal, but increased, and then that distribution then occurred at the beginning of June.
Okay. Okay.
So there is flexibility depending on how the market's going. I'm definitely not going to ask for a distribution if something like today occurred and having July, say it would have been July, definitely would not request a distribution. And I realize the investment managers managing the portfolios, they're smart enough not to utilize the actual investments. There's usually more than enough cash on hand for them to go ahead and make the distribution, but I just don't want to take that risk of them all of a sudden rebalancing the portfolio just because we took a distribution.
Gotcha. You know, another thing that we could look at, I mean, this is internal.
Hey, Jim, you muted yourself. There you go. Jim, you're back. You were muted for a little bit.
You know, yeah, I don't know what's going on with this thing, but I know that you don't see me now, and it keeps popping up saying that that it can't connect in WebEx of me. So it's to your advantage. You're not seeing me, even though I'm trying to get my video back. Anyway, this is all park board internal driven, so to speak. So one suggestion I might make is that for Craig's budgeting purpose for the full year, maybe we do an authorization of around the 3%. And we can always look at this again in December and sort of say,
oh no.
I don't know why that's doing that. I'm doing absolutely nothing, but it keeps popping me in and out. I don't know what's going on with WebEx. For budgeting purposes, maybe we recommend a 3% distribution this year, with the understanding that as our committee, we will look at this again in December. And if for whatever reason we see either our spending isn't up there or the market's in a position where we don't want to take, maybe we make another recommendation, and the board is absolutely authorized that we can bump it down at any point. It doesn't have to be set in stone. Craig, how would you react to that?
I would agree to that. Looking at the numbers, looking at our ending balances projected for 2021, I would definitely agree with that because at a 3% rate, we're definitely covering our expenditures, but if there's something that changes during the course of the first 6 months of the new fiscal year, that'll allow us to make an adjustment. I know a great example is just look at the last quarter of fiscal year 2020. We didn't really come close to using a lot of budgeted expenses within the commissioner fund, in large part because we didn't have the staff to actually spend the money. So
Yeah.
knowing that we're going to have limitations even going into next year, we maybe find ourselves to where, from an expenditure standpoint, we're not really on pace to spend that amount of money, and we can then reduce it back down or not take that second distribution.
Well, to carry that thought forward, Craig, would
Jim, you're muted.
Lost you.
Craig, what is your recommendation or thought? Is it better for us to go ahead and recommend a 3% for budgeting for the year and then back down, or should we go, because of what you're just saying, where we've got excess cash, so to speak, that was not able to be spent? Should we go with a 2% so that your first draw is lower and we can always adjust it up for the second half if you need it? Do you have a preference either way?
When I look at the balances, I'll go back, where do we want the money to sit? And I would advocate that a 2% draw for next year. We have plenty in our ending balances, and if something does come up, we just go back to the park board commissioners and request more.
I sort of like that in a year like this, that we are erring on what I think all of us feel, that we are hoping that, it is an election year as well. And typically at the tail end of an election year, even though the world is different, typically markets go up a little bit in advance of an election. So if you're comfortable, I think I would be leaning more towards adopting a 2% recommendation with the understanding that we would commit to go. Commitment to look again in December and adjust accordingly.
I like that. What is our policy, up to 5%?
Yes.
So, again, the fact that we do this on a rolling 20 quarters, and the fact that Craig splits up the distribution into at least 2 pieces, we really are protected by that approach from doing anything that would ever be too damaging, meaning the difference between 2% and 3%, because of the way we approach it, it's never going to be that big of a deal. But I agree with everything else that we've said. Now is the year to distribute the minimum that we compute, and I think I'd feel more. Heck, we don't need these funds, so I'd like your idea, Jim, about maybe we agree to 2, and we still get another swing at this in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, John, what's your feeling?
I am muted. No, I'm not muted. Good. I am persuasible to 3, but if the person who is immediately responsible for meeting the financial desires and requirements of the park system is saying, no, I can live with 2, as I'm very mindful of roles, and my role here as a member of the investment committee is for long-term stewardship of these funds. And in that situation, for the reasons I outlined earlier, if it's not hurting the system to stay at 2, to me, that's a slam dunk. You go with 2. And it's not like the last time we can ever revisit it. If the situation changes, of course, but coming out of the gate a little more, I am not a conservative individual whatsoever, but in this context, in this role, if we can come out of the gate more conservatively, I think that is better adherence to what I believe our charter to be.
Perfect.
I agree.
Well, I think I hear a consensus here, and I would propose that somebody make a motion then that we recommend to the Board of Commissioners that we budget for a 2% distribution from our endowment funds based on the trailing 20 quarters average as of the end of June, and that we would commit to revisiting that further into the year, near the end of the year, to evaluate the need of the park board for funds at that point in time. Does that sound reasonable, Craig?
Absolutely.
Well, now that we have that on recording, somebody could just move that.
So moved what Jim said.
Okay, John, is there a second?
I'll second what John said.
Okay. Well, then all of those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All right.
More important, is there anyone opposed? Great. Well, Craig, we'll take that. So for your planning purposes and budgeting, scheduling, go with the 2%, and then we can explain the rationale to the. I think we will address this at the next Board of Commissioners meeting, correct?
Yeah, this is the Commissioners Fund budget is slated to go in front of the Commissioners on the July 16th meeting.
July 16th. Okay.
Yes.
So we're not doing that at our very next meeting.
Unless, depending on the date of it, if the date, because I know June 30th was mentioned, I don't know if that meeting is going to occur. But it's just time to get the consolidated budget together in a presentable format for the commissioners.
Okay.
So if it's the week after the 4th of July, then it's doable.
Yeah, that's what we're looking at now. I believe we're looking at either the 7th. Sorry, I don't know how much of that you heard. It just beeps me off.
That is interesting, how it just mutes you.
Somebody's muting me like crazy. But anyway, at the very next, I think we're looking at either July 7, 8, or 9, Craig.
Okay.
We'll just say that at both you and I can share with the commissioners our thoughts on this.
That sounds good.
Craig, is there, before we get into, oh, this is crazy. Before we get into just an overview of park issues, do you have anything else from a financial standpoint that you'd like for us to look at?
Not in regards to the investment committee. I know definitely from the park board itself and the city itself, it's definitely been a very trying time, as it is for all businesses and entities. So we're working our best and perform a lot of exercise to where we can try to reduce costs and try to weather the storm. I know a couple of our funds, and I've shared this with Kara, one of our biggest funds that we're going to really have to keep an eye on is our Crone Conservatory Fund, which is, the Crone is opening July the 7th. So we're hoping, and we're going to have a marketing effort as well as other means to see if we can drive up some business there. We've also estimated about $800,000 due to the cancellation of the butterfly show.
Yeah, as we look at the remainder of fiscal year 20, we've not had the revenue that we typically would. Obviously, offset with that would be that we didn't have the expense side as well for those things. As just an FYI for you, as you probably know, the fiscal year 2020 budget is now being debated in City Council. One of the major, I recommend we never do a whatever we're on today. This, for some reason, is just crazy. Anyway, the biggest negative side of the budget is that we have no revenue for down for potentially Crone, just park rentals that we have and lodges and all that stuff. So we are feeling as a park board, we're appreciative that our budget did not suffer. The proposed budget for 2021, I'll say, is not as bad as what we were potentially looking at earlier this year. So we will have a better, obviously, look at where we will be for a budget standpoint for 2021 within the next. For the other major, and this is annoying, so I'll try and get the Banks project is continuing to move forward. We are still waiting to hear if the state of Ohio is, number one, going to do capital distributions, and number two, if we will be awarded the $2 million that we asked for from the state for the riverfront for finishing Smale Park. The city has given us this. The city had an committed to 1.45 million for that project and has committed to an additional 1.3 million to help plug the shortfall that we have. And the Parks Foundation has been incredible and has agreed to support us if that they will take as a significant priority for fundraising to help us replace any money that we had to be able to get the actual work started down there. As far as other projects, we're still obviously evaluating a marina / for the riverfront. Lido, I'm so sorry. Lido Park. Do you guys have any questions for? For some reason, this just keeps.
Now, since we only heard half of what you said, can we only ask half of a question?
Yes.
And are you not struck by the idea that we have mutual acquaintances that wish over the years they could have muted you as often as you muted yourself?
So now I know you've got the button over there, Steve, on your. I'm
gonna request it.
How about this? I will forward to you all updates that we have related to just park operations and some projects we have floating around.
That'd be good. First I'll ask if anybody else has any agenda items or anything they'd like to bring up.
I just have a clarification or a question. I think we touched on this before, but we deferred for 1 quarter, potentially 2 quarter, re-engaging. But our intent in a non-COVID environment is to essentially each quarter review one of our fund managers. Is that close to the thinking?
That is correct.
Yes, I agree.
And I continue to support that and think it's a good idea. And obviously, it's not a good idea in a spike in coronavirus. So understood that that's suspended for a while, but I think that's, again, in that same spirit of stewardship. I think if we, as we are able, stay on that, then we are discharging our duties well.
And to that point, John, I think we will continue to ask Craig to coordinate with Fifth Third to be with us at our next meeting. And hopefully by our next meeting, we will have been able to have a meeting with management at PNC.
Great.
Craig, are we on a bi-monthly meeting schedule? Do you know?
Oh, can you repeat that, Jim? Are you referring to investment committee, monthly or bi-monthly?
Yes.
Oh, we were on a monthly schedule, but I don't see why we couldn't move to a bi-monthly.
Craig, give us a recommendation if you think we should meet again mid-July, or would you rather wait till, say, early August?
I would prefer August time frame, just because of I think July we're still gonna be probably under the guidance of staying at home and working from home, as well as trying to avoid public meetings.
Okay. Can we then look at your calendars for August? And if we could look at the weeks of, the weeks of 10 or 17. Does anybody have a preference?
I'm likely to be better on 17. I may be doing a college drop-off the week of the 10th, but who knows at this point. I'm 51-49 for the week of the 17th, but it's not, I don't pretend to be determinative.
Okay.
I will be out of office the 17th through the 21st. So.
Okay. Well, then I don't. Schedule for the week of August 24, and if something pops up, we might have to then call a special meeting or something. But can we look at August the 26th?
Good all day.
That works for me.
Perfect.
Then let's plan. Let's plan for that. August 20. Let's say 3 p.m.
Yes.
And if there's nothing else to come before us, I am going to adjourn this meeting.
Sounds good.
Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Okay,
Second.
Steve. John, you're seconding it, and I think we'll have unanimous consent to end the meeting.
Have a lovely rest of the day.
See you guys.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you, and sorry
you.
for all
Take care.
the issues at the beginning and with the muting problems.
Yeah, we got through it.
You didn't invent WebEx, no worries.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
We'll do Zoom next time.
There you go.
Thank you.
We'll do that.
Hopefully by then we might be able to see each other, but at least we'll do Zoom. Okay, thanks guys. We're adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.